And at 10, the discovery of Remnant. The discovery of Remnant is only really described to us in the original novel series, with William learning about the souls of the missing children being basically infused into the endoskeletons of the original 5 animatronics. He melts them down to make the fun times, but this is when his goal changes. Originally, he, from what we can tell with our limited information, was just killing for the sake of it. However, now he had a purpose. He wanted to find the key to eternal life, to immortality, whether it be to bring maybe an extra child back, or to keep himself in the land of the living. The moment William discovered Remnant, he totally changed his game plan. However, that's the importance to the FNAF story. To us, it could be when we discovered how Remnant was made in the FAZBEAR Frights books, when Dr. Phineas Taggart discovered that agony was the most powerful human emotion, and that the act of possessing something in the FNAF world was just your extreme agony latching onto a nearby object, which explains why it happened to the children, and then to William, which I'll talk about later on. And at 9, Missing Children's Incident. The Missing Children's Incident is really what started the FNAF series. It's also a tongue twister. It's a mystery that we all gravitated towards when we started looking into the first game, and it's the incident that really popularized the series, aside from it being terrifying. The incident has gone down in history as one of the scariest and most convoluted things in recent years, with whole threads being dedicated to why or how it happened, along with how William got away with it, since the suits were literally leaking body fluids like a rotting corpse would, and no one checked them out. It's incredible how far the series has come from just that one moment, and it being the catalyst for everything else. That makes it pretty important and very deserving of our number 9 spot. And before we get any further, if you're enjoying this video or just like the FNAF content in general, be sure you're hitting that like button on this one and all the videos to come. It really helps us out and it lets us know what you want to see more of. And at 8, scooping. The first scooping of the series was that of Elizabeth Afton, the Afton family daughter. The one that was probably going to make a lot of mistakes in high school and college, but at least she wouldn't have been as bad as her father. But then she went and ignored him, resulting in her getting scooped by Baby and getting crushed, thus possessing the animatronic, which is freaking terrifying to begin with, but I think that Scott was trying to teach his kids to listen to him, honestly. This event, while not the start of William's killing spree, is a pivotal moment in the series as well, because while he discovered the Remnant already, now he had a personal stake in the matter. His kid had possessed an animatronic. And the key to life in this Remnant was also the key to keeping his daughter alive, and making sure that she could live forever, even if he used her to kill Henry in FNAF World, but that's beside the point. Her scooping is also what we believe made Crying Child scared of the animatronics and the inspiration behind the Nightmare animatronics' stomach mouths, which ended up coming into play during the Crying Child's death later in the timeline. Probably the same week, if we're being honest. Also, the FNAF series is like 3 or 4 years younger than Skyrim. That's it. And at 7, Scooping 2, Electric Boogaloo. Michael's scooping, however, defined the next parts of the series as a whole. We learn that he's working to right his father's wrongs, and we think that he's been doing it the whole time, even though it could have been Henry. Check the link in the iCard for the theory on that. But Michael's scooping was different. Instead of him dying, we see him get filled with Ennard and then used as a skin suit to walk around in the world. We see his skin rot or bruise as it turns purple, drawing enough attention that Ennard thinks it's a better idea to roam the sewers as a mess of animatronic parts. But then he lets us know that he's coming after his father, so much so that once he traps him in Pizzeria Simulator, he stays there to make sure the deed is done, but it's not. And Michael gave his life in order for his father's reign of terror to end, but is this the last time we've seen Michael, or is always coming back hereditary? Only time will tell. Maybe reincarnation is a thing in the FNAF series. It very well could be. Scott's just pulling things out at this point. And at 6, Spring Locked. In FNAF 3, we watch as William Afton tries to save his own skin. He knows the animatronics are alive and tries to save himself by dismantling them in an effort to make sure they won't be able to, you know, stuff him into a furry suit. But in this action, as we see in the 8-bit minigames, he ends up releasing the souls of the characters. Well, I guess technically they aren't released, they just appear in an astral form or something, since they'd still be possessing the suits because he needs to melt them down, but yeah. This scares William because, you know, 5 of his murder victims are staring him down like Chica in a hot slice of pizza, so he does the one thing that he could think of, try and scare them back, by getting into the Spring Bonnie suit he used to lure them away in the first place. This suit makes him feel powerful, it's a confidence booster, it makes him feel like he's in control. A weird way to express a dom kink, but okay, I'm not judging. However, he does this so fast and the room was so moist and wet that instead of scaring them, he gets himself snapped. The spring locks fail and the suit shoots plenty of tiny and large bits of endoskeleton metal into his body, causing him to collapse and convulse, oozing blood like the kids in their suits. But this causes so much hassle because now, 30 years later, when he is set free, he can still kill. He isn't the frail old man that he should be. He has the strength of the animatronic behind him, and he's gonna use it. Halfway through number 5, Bite of 83. The Bite of 83, not to be confused with the Bite of 87, is one of the most confusing moments in the timeline sense. Like, we know it happened in 1983, but what happened to the crying child after? Does William indeed put him back together? Does he possess something? What happened to crying child? But this is an important moment too, because despite the confusion between 1987 and 1983, this would only drive William deeper into his madness, causing him to do unspeakable and unexpected things, like turn his son into a robot and give him false memories of killing his younger sibling so he wouldn't go back to a Freddy's location, naming the new robot version Michael, for instance. Or by just going on even more of a killing spree, not caring about the consequences of his actions because what else does he have to lose? And if crying child does end up possessing the security logbook or even Golden Freddy, then that only goes to serve this point too. The Bite of 83 is a horrific but important moment. And at 4, Happiest Day. The Happiest Day minigame from FNAF 3 was planned to be the end of the series. Scott said that the game was meant to be the last, but people were disappointed with the Springtrap jump scare, so he made FNAF 4, which makes sense now since it's pretty much an overcorrection. That's why those animatronics are so damn terrifying and horrific, and why FNAF 4 is listed as the end of the original FNAF story. The souls at the time of FNAF 3's release are in fact set free, hence the good and bad endings, but come FNAF 4 and more so sister location, we learn that this isn't the case, since the remnant metal used to make the fun times is actually made of the remnant from the original 5 kids, which causes some interesting plot holes but could help explain a lot. Like, the children's spirits could have been released, but the metal was still infused with their agony perhaps, allowing it to be more conductive for spirits, hence why Elizabeth possesses babies so quickly, or something along those lines, maybe? I don't know. The horrific implications of the original ending to the series make this one of the most important FNAF lore moments, especially if it had ended there. Imagine if it had. Imagine how simple the games would have been if it just ended in FNAF 3. And that was the ending. We set the spirits free and that was it. We were good. Didn't work. Getting close to the end in number 3, FNAF 6. FNAF 6 is another one of those ending sequences, where the series looks like it could have ended, and while slightly more convoluted, it would have been okay. We would have hammered out the rest eventually. The FNAF 6 ending, though, was indeed the end of multiple animatronics. Elizabeth, Charlotte, and Ennard were all released in the FNAF fire, as well as Michael, who stays to burn, and Henry, who stayed so nobody would remember this place or this story. However, we know one escaped. Springtrap, or Scraptrap, William Afton himself, managing to evade death once again, and it wouldn't be until later where we found out and understood how, and yet we figured he would be back. He always comes back, and now, with nobody to stand against him, he's free to do whatever he wants. Henry isn't fighting him, Michael isn't fighting him, they both thought he would burn, but he's free, as free as he can be while being stuck inside a video game world. For now. Penultimately in number 2, The Man in Room 1280. While plenty of people brush these books off as just books, the story of The Man in Room 1280 is one of the most important pieces of lore we have gotten from this series. It answers a question that we've all had since FNAF 3. How does William keep surviving? How does he always come back? And while it may seem minuscule, this is the biggest hint that we've gotten in ages. Learning that William was possessed by the spirit of one of his victims explains more in the series than any Easter egg Scott had left us. I don't care that Funtime Foxy can mimic voices, or how the Scooper can inject a remnant. It mattered how William's signature line of "I always come back" is true, and this book delivered. It also explains how he came to possess a hard drive that got scanned into Help Wanted. It explains that since he was possessed, he was alive in FNAF 3, and that explains how he survived the fire in both FNAF 3 and FNAF 6. It showed us that everyone knows what he did despite not being convicted. It provided so much for us, and that makes it the most important piece of confirmed lore that we have. There is one moment that is more important, but we have nothing on it at the time of this recording. And that point is, finally, in at number 1, The Breaking Point. The breaking point in this scenario is referring to the moment William started killing. We don't know when it was, we don't know why it was. To us, it's just always been a thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was an incident before that of the missing children's from the first game that was just his first kill. We don't know what drove him into killing, and there's no way that would have been the first, right? Nothing has been confirmed or even presented in the games. There are hypotheses that it was due to his wife or lover dying, perhaps due to childbirth, or that it was because one of his children died, but we know that can't be true unless he had another kid that we haven't seen, because he had designed animatronics to kill before his children died. There were really no indicators as to why he started on his mass killing spree. It could just be that he's insane and wanted to do it, or maybe he wanted to unlock the mysteries of life, or maybe it was just an accident the first time but then he got a taste for it. We don't know, and we don't even have any evidence to go off, so all of this is just hypothesis and guesswork. It can't even really be educated guesswork because we don't know enough about Afton himself to make a real connection. Like, we don't understand him as a person, if you kind of get what I'm saying. We know parts of his story, but we don't know what's in his brain, and that's what we would need to make an educated guess, at least from the crime shows I've watched. An intent to kill a Charlotte. In FNAF 2, and even more so FNAF 6, we witnessed the murder of Charlotte Emily, the daughter of Henry Emily, one of the creators of the FAZBEAR restaurants, at the hands of his business partner William Afton, the Purple Guy, the man with more titles than Daenerys Targaryen. This moment is really the moment that starts the whole series. While yes, William had killed before this, him killing Charlotte allows the other animatronics to come to life, as we see in the Give Gifts Give Life minigame. If William had never killed Charlotte, maybe he would have gotten away with everything. The kids wouldn't have been able to possess the animatronics, and William would have never gotten spring locked. You think Golden Freddy is the one you should not have killed? Dude, he'd be fine right now if he didn't kill Henry's daughter. And at 9, FAZBEAR Frights. There are currently 5 FAZBEAR Frights books in existence, with another set to release probably in November, Blackbird. There were originally only going to be 5 FAZBEAR Frights books before Scott got a deal to make more, because you know, FNAF brings in the money. Also, for those of you saying we milk FNAF, have you looked at the views? We released a video that was top 10 weirdest VR games you need to play. That hardly got 1K views recently. FNAF videos hit 5K at least each time. So stop telling us we milk FNAF, we know. But now they're getting another 2 books. While this in and of itself is scary, the real horror comes from the stories within. Sure, this doesn't take place in the main FNAF game continuity, but it's still its own canon with its own lore, and these things have some deep lore for themselves, as well as in the games in general. More on that at the end. But these things have had lore reveals like how Remnant works, how Possession works, how Michael Afton is the Foxy Bro, but he's also just a reincarnated version of the Crime Child. There have been so many reveals among these terrifying stories, it's hard to ignore them. Don't ignore them at all. Or me for that matter. And at 8, facial recognition. The toy animatronics were created with the express purpose of adding facial recognition so that they could detect anyone wanted by police and try to catch a killer. Due to the original missing children's incident, which is weird, but like, whatever. You could just make sure that people don't come in unless they have children. The fact that the restaurant felt it necessary to add facial recognition to its animatronics and then tasked the man responsible for killing the children with adding that facial recognition, it's meant to catch him. Okay, that's terrifying to say the least. Honestly, one of the scariest things we haven't seen but only heard about. It sends a shiver down my spine. That's real horror. Not these jump scares and crap, but that, it's just, oh my god. And at 7, Midnight Motorist. If we were right about our original interpretation of Midnight Motorist, and it's really after William killed Charlotte, then this has got to be one of the freakiest scenes in all of gaming. One of my biggest fears is the thought that anyone we walk past could secretly be a killer. William killed Charlotte and then just drove home. He went to Weenie Hut Jr.'s and nobody there just knew what he had just done. He came home and talked to his son like nothing had happened. And then he said his son will be punished when he gets home? It's terrifying. These kinds of moments are the ones that stick with you, if you think about it in the right way at least. The guy we see on the subway could have just escaped police, or the guy who makes our latte in the morning could have killed someone the night before, or could be planning on it later tonight. It's the reality of the world we live in. It's one of my biggest fears and something I think a lot about, which honestly explains why I resonate so much with this series. And at 6, Pizza Party. The pizza party ending in FNAF VR is another one of those stick-with-you moments. With jump scares, the fear goes away quickly, but with things like this, it can affect you for days to come. And especially with someone like SCHMIDT, it makes you rethink everything you know. Is that guy just a furry, or is that secretly his murder suit that he wore to the convention ironically? The pizza party ending, in case you don't know, is the final minigame in FNAF VR. It only unlocks after beating every other minigame and its blacklight version. However, this is some intense stuff. Your goal is to make it backstage, where SCHMIDT has laid out pizza, cake, and some of your friends for you. Bonnie and Chica sit on the sidelines as SCHMIDT pulls back the curtain and ushers you closer. Where's Freddy, you may ask? Well, Freddy's there, he's just on stage, waiting for you to join in the singing. Let's do it like a round. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur. Happy kitty, sleepy kitty, purr, purr, purr. No? Just me? That's normal. Halfway through at number 5, Baby Charlotte. The big reveal in The Fourth Closet, the third and final novel in the original FNAF book trilogy, was that the main character Charlie was actually the third in a group of 4 robots created by her father after she was killed by AFTON. That's what the title is referring to, one closet for each of those robot versions. However, it was also revealed that this robotic version of Charlie is also the circus baby animatronic, who can switch between her looks using the pins that we see in sister location and on the blueprints. It's honestly terrifying. Okay, thinking about the fact that this robot was realistic enough to get someone's gears turning, but then can transform into baby at a moment's notice, I guess that's why people keep saying that baby's thick. Or maybe it's just because y'all are into some weird stuff. Probably the latter. And at 4, the Twisted Ones. The Twisted animatronics are basically the book equivalent of the Nightmare animatronics from FNAF 4. This novel, the second in the original FNAF trilogy, was our first introduction to the illusion sound discs that we see inside of Funtime Freddy and Sister Location. The Twisted Ones are half organic, half robotic animatronics that are monster versions of the ones we already know, like Foxy, Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie. Their main goal is to blow up and then act like they don't know nobody, and then trick kids into trusting them using the sound illusion discs and kill them, bringing their body back to William for experimentation with Remnant. How fun. They use the sound discs to look different to every kid based on that child's memories, which is horrifying when you think about it. Hell, one kid may see a dead parent and then get killed because they wanted to see their father again or something. It's hella messed up and hella creepy. These things bury themselves during the day and only come out at night after digging themselves out of their own graves. It's terrible. And at 3, Ultimate Torment. The ultimate custom night story we all know is that William is in hell being tortured by the soul of Cassidy, the one you should not have killed. However, now we seem to think that he was possibly in a coma in the hospital recovering from his FNAF 6 burns thanks to the story The Man in Room 1280. From the Bunny Call FAZBEAR Frights book. No matter what, this thing is still really scary when you think about it. Being tortured constantly would be one hell of a feeling. But when it's about someone who's constantly killing people, why should we care? Because of what it means to the series. This series is going through it in terms of lore reveals thanks to the FAZBEAR Frights books, but this we thought was solid. Now not even William being in hell is a thing that's confirmed. I mean, of course he'll be going to hell, but only if he can actually die. A killer who will never stop. That is bone shaking. Bone shake is ready. And at 2, Vanny. With the latest release of the FNAF Security Breach teaser, we can only speculate what's going to become of Vanny, the main antagonist of the game. Also, I know the game isn't reportedly in VR. I still have my doubts, but I did see the comment on both previous FNAF videos as well as the comment left by Steelwool on Steam, so sorry for causing any confusion there. I literally wrote those 2 scripts in the space of 3 hours, which is incredibly fast, especially for me, and filmed them both before noon. Okay, so cut me some slack. Anyway, we don't know much about Vanny at the time of this recording, but she's still pretty scary. The way that she talks and the fact that she's possessed by SCHMIDT just makes it really send a shiver down your spine. Especially when you think about the fact that she's probably taunting her son, or at least a close family member. Hell, it may even be Tape Girl. We never learned Tape Girl's name. I thought it was Susie thanks to the Chica animatronic from Health Wanted's Pizza Party ending, but maybe not. Maybe it's Vanny. Finally, in at number 1.
I always come back.
He protect, he attack, but most importantly, he always come back. Even still, potentially! This theory comes to us thanks to the story The Man in Room 1280 from the latest FAZBEAR FRIGHTS book Bunny Call, which features a man burnt beyond recognition and an iron will to live. However, it's not his will to live keeping him from the nurse's attempts on his life. It's really the spirit of one of the missing children who is keeping him alive so that he can be continuously tortured by living. This is obviously a reference to William Afton, who is burnt to a crisp in FNAF 6, but potentially still alive because of this spirit. This also explains how William survived for so many years while being trapped behind a wall, until he was set loose in FNAF 3. And you people thought I was crazy. I said he was alive, therefore Springtrap wasn't an animatronic because he was being controlled by a living human. He was just a human stuck in the suit. And besides, a man living for 30 years behind a wall isn't the most far-fetched thing in this series. Well, now it's canon. William Afton was being kept alive by the spirit of a dead child, who in the epilogue had found his way into the STITCHWRAITH, meaning that now William is finally dead, but probably not before latching his soul onto another circuit board with usable code that ended up becoming Glitchtrap. So, is he really dead?
Number 10. The Fate of Charlie. Through the minigames we have learned that the puppet is another animatronic possessed by a spirit. It seems that the puppet is actually possessed by the soul of Charlie, Henry's daughter. Although this is a little confusing if we're factoring in what we know of Charlie from the books to try and tie that into one timeline. But if we just ignore the timeline part of it for now, which with FNAF I think is usually best, Charlie was Henry's daughter, a strong and independent girl who was killed during a visit to Freddy's restaurant, trapped outside, possibly having an allergic reaction and tragically dying out in the rain. Her spirit then went into a nearby animatronic, which happened to be the puppet. Number 9. Bite of 83/87? You decide which year it is. One of the most horrific and graphic revelations when we actually got to see one of, or potentially the only bite from the 80s revealed in FNAF 4. In a minigame, we see the crying child tormented by his older siblings and their friends. The young boy is celebrating a birthday at Freddy's and is frightened of the animatronics. Knowing this, his older brother makes him stand next to the FREDBEAR animatronic and then even puts his younger brother's head inside the animatronic's mouth. That is not safe, making his brother give the animatronic a big kiss. However, the animatronic malfunctions and his teeth and jaws clamp down on the boy's head, crushing his skull and, as we learn later, killing him. Some believe this should be known as the Bite of 83 due to an advertisement seen in the minigame from 1983, whereas others think the bite lines up too closely with what we know of the 1987 incident, the Bite of 87, for it to be a coincidence. What do you think? Which bite is this? Or are they both one and the same bite? Number 8. STITCHWRAITH. In the FNAF books, we have learned about the mysterious figure known as the STITCHWRAITH, which sounds like it could resemble perhaps Ennard, but apparently is kind of its own thing. STITCHWRAITH has yet to appear in the games, but is still horrifying and pretty important to the lore nonetheless. It was brought to life using the souls of 2 children combined with the powerful emotion of agony or suffering. In the FAZBEAR Fright books, it has shown up in each book, appearing during the end of each one of the stories there, and appears to be collecting haunted animatronics parts for what we can only imagine is some kind of dark and sinister reason. Of course, what we'd really like to know is to what purpose is STITCHWRAITH amassing its collection. Number 7. The Fate of Elizabeth Afton. Sister Location in my mind was one of the biggest for lore moments because it just gave us so many important revelations. It and Pizzeria Simulator for me are really the standout games for lore moments. In Sister Location, it's implied and sort of revealed that William Afton had a daughter, Elizabeth. He made the animatronic circus baby for his daughter, but apparently would not let Elizabeth play with baby because he felt it was just too dangerous. This was likely because he'd made it to basically be a murder bot, or because he knew it just could be potentially dangerous and it could malfunction. I don't know why, of course, you'd make a murder bot for your daughter, but hey, I don't think any of us have ever thought William would stand a chance at winning any awards for parenting, am I right? Elizabeth manages to sneak away from her father and the other children, finding herself alone with Circus Baby, who, as expected, murders her, luring her with ice cream. Sweet, sweet ice cream. Elizabeth's soul then becomes trapped in Circus Baby, changing Baby's eye color from blue to green. Number 6. Michael Afton becomes Mike Schmidt. During Sister Location, you play as Elizabeth's brother, Michael Afton, aka Eggs Benedict, as you become nicknamed by the malfunctioning hand unit. In the Sister Location minigames and during the main game that is Sister Location, we learn of your fate as Michael Afton after you are scooped out by Ennard during the True true ending. Ennard remains with you, but we later find out as Michael's exterior continues to rot as time goes on, Ennard eventually leaves Michael, being vomited up by him during the minigames where we see him become more and more rotten and eventually fully purple. Circus Baby, however, tells you even without any insides that you won't die, and somehow, miraculously, Mike Afton comes back to life. Just like that. It's then theorized that Michael Afton after this point became Mike SCHMIDT, changing his name and becoming the other Michael that we come to know as the protagonist in FNAF 1. Number 5. Remnant. Considering that the revelation of the importance of Remnant was also attached to the scooper we saw used in Circus Baby's entertainment and rental in FNAF's sister location, the substance itself is involved in a pretty scary and important lore moment. Remnant also appears in Special Delivery and is used there to power up your animatronics, in a sense, giving them life. It seems to be the life essence of the animatronics in the games. Based on what we know from the games, this implies that Remnant is basically a soul or a collection of souls, but in the books it's even implied that Remnant could be created out of intense distilled emotions, such as primarily suffering and agony. Number 4. Serial Killer. Throughout FNAF 1, it's hinted that something awful happened at Freddy's. Well, actually, a lot of things that were awful happened at Freddy's, and it's later revealed that one of those awful things was a bunch of children that went missing. You later find out that these children didn't just go missing but were murdered by none other than William Afton, dun dun dun, who is of course the inventor of these animatronics. Of course, we're still not sure exactly why William killed these kids, but the fact remains that he is the serial killer responsible, and it's even believed that helping to create the franchise and its animatronics was his own crazy way of creating his own horrific killing ground. Number 3. Springtrap. One of the more shocking reveals was when we find out the fate of William Afton following the murders. He returned to Freddy's planning to dismantle the animatronics he'd built, but the spirits of the children he had murdered returned, hell-bent on getting their revenge. Terrified, William ran away and found the faulty Spring Bonnie model to hide in, knowing that the animatronics would not recognize him as a threat if he was also hiding in an animatronic suit. This part of his plan of course worked out, but due to William laughing at the thought of his own victory, which really he probably should have waited until the animatronics were gone, and due to water leaking onto the spring locks, the locks gave way, impaling William and killing him within the suit. His own soul then became trapped within that suit, as did his corpse, giving us the terrifying antagonist for FNAF 3, Spring Bonnie, the only animatronic in that game who could actually kill you, because all the other ones were just hallucinations or ghosts. Number 2. Freeing the souls. At the end of Pizzeria Simulator, we learn that we have unknowingly been running the pizzeria for a greater purpose that was previously unknown to us. Our boss, who we suspect to be Henry, which was William Afton's partner, has hired us, Michael Afton, as the manager of this pizzeria so that we would lure in all the evil and possessed animatronics. Once all gathered, our boss reveals that now it's time to end the cycle of bloodshed and let go and move on from the tragedies tied to Freddy's franchise. He urges the animatronics there, including a version of Circus Baby and William Afton's Springtrap, to be still and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. Thus seemingly ending the murderous rampage of so many villains that we'd known, and in theory ending his own life as he is nearby, and the life of you, the manager, Michael Afton, when he burns the pizzeria to the ground. Number 1. Glitch Trap. During FNAF VR Help Wanted, we learned about the fact that somehow William Afton was still able to survive through an animatronics chip being scanned into the Help Wanted game, used to help create realistic replicas of the old animatronics. Somehow, this allowed some part of Afton to manifest, becoming a malicious code that was unable to be deleted. Help Wanted is such a meta game. It's games and games, and these games, this is a game in the world, but it's also a game in our world. What's real? What's reality? I don't know. So, even though William Afton was burned down with the rest of the animatronics in Pizzeria Simulator, we learn in Help Wanted that he somehow has managed to survive, and has managed to even recruit someone to potentially aid him in escaping the confines of his digital prison. It's more than likely that we'll learn even more about Glitch Trap in FNAF 8 Security Breach.